Like it couldn't be the first track. It had to be like number 5 or something. And then it's like when you ask them about it, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's just their jam song." No, it's a funk song. Get it
number
right.
5. They call it the Funky 5.
The Funky 5.
Apparently, you can just say the Funky and then say anything after it, and it's a thing. That's
totally.
What I'm learning. Welcome to the Funky Accelerativ Thrust.
Yeah. Citizens of Earth, welcome to Accelerativ Thrust. I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik.
And this is your introduction to another episode where we're going to be talking about music and other, well, bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's the technical term.
Has there been any, the technical term is bullshit.
Yeah.
Has there been any, bullshit you've seen in the news lately regarding anything? Well, I have a piece of music news here.
Mm-hmm.
James Hetfield says he might be done writing the Unforgiven songs. It may be a long shot.
We're done listening to them.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's dig into this a little bit. Okay. During a recent episode of the Metallica Report podcast, whoa.
Bullshit, isn't that our podcast?
Yeah. Metallica frontman James Hetfield was answering some fan questions. And he was asked whether he was done writing the Unforgiven songs after completing the trilogy on 2008's Death Magnetic. It's a great question. And honestly, one that elicits a bit of a chuckle from Hetfield before giving the biggest who knows he possibly could. And this is what he said. This is his quotes. "I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet, so it's not finished. I don't know if we're going to have an Unforgiven, what is that, XII, or not. I don't know. If I say I know, then it'll be different. Unforgiven 3, it's obviously about self-forgiveness, and I didn't have any of that, especially in the first one."
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's not over till he's dead.
It's not over. It's not over till it's over, you know?
Yeah. Over till it's over. Sorry, that song's way better than the Unforgiven. Lenny Kravitz? Solid track. That is a solid damn track right there, I'm telling you.
It is a pretty good track, but I got to say the first Unforgiven, I think, is a masterpiece. Unforgiven 2 is an unmasterpiece, and Unforgiven 3 is, it exists.
I don't know if anyone's ever compared Till It's Over by Lenny Kravitz to the Unforgiven by Metallica.
I bet you $1,000 they have. I bet you $1,000. Think about it. Anybody who has a Lenny Kravitz CD in their collection has to also have almost guaranteed a Metallica CD as well.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the Metallica CD would have to be the Black Album, which has the Unforgiven. Or it would have to be like Reload, which has the Unforgiven 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst thing about Unforgiven 2 is that he actually sings, "And you're unforgiven too." Like that to me was like, I laughed when I heard that. But he doesn't sing Unforgiven 3 and Unforgiven 3. And that disappoints me. So hopefully if he comes out with an Unforgiven 4, he'll be like, "And I'm unforgiven for you." Or so, like uses it as some sort of, like lead into another sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if you want to start a band, a 3-piece that we call the Unforgiven 3.
Totally.
Okay. And we'll just do Lenny Kravitz covers.
Yeah. It's not over till it's over. Like we should.
We got all this pain inside.
Are you gonna go my way?
That song rips. I'm sorry, dude, Lenny Kravitz is awesome. I don't get
100%. That "Are You Gonna Go My Way" is is a scorcher, dude. That is a song that's better than the Unforgiven.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that song is. When I first heard it, I was like, I legitimately thought that it was maybe like a Jimi Hendrix B-side or something.
Yeah, I have a very clear memory of the first time I heard it. I was homesick from school, which I was a lot back then.
Yeah.
And it was a world premiere video. I don't know if you remember those.
Of course I do.
Yeah. And they showed it at like 11 in the morning. And I was like, oh my God, this is the future of music. And no one at school knows about this but me.
Yeah.
I felt really cool. Yeah.
There were many times that I was home alone sick where I thought that. I remember I saw the world premiere of Beck's Where It's At.
Oh, nice.
And I remember just thinking to myself, because that was back when they were showing world premieres on the hour. They would literally show the premiere of a video every hour. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, man, this has got to be bigger than Loser.
The new Biggest Loser starts right now.
And it really wasn't, but it did get close.
I think, yeah, it's a pretty well-known song.
It is. It's his.
Yeah, nothing can compare to Loser, though. I mean,
no, it's his,
like the official song of the 90s.
Yeah. Well,
that or Under the Bridge or Cannonball. I don't know.
Well, I think that has to go to Teen Spirit.
Oh, yeah, of course. That one was so obvious, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. But I do think Loser is probably a close second, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I think Loser is definitely encapsulates the 90s, maybe even more than Teen Spirit, to be honest.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's very little rapping in Teen Spirit.
Yeah, very little rapping in Teen Spirit.
Get the lights out.
And also, like, we've talked about this too, actually. Mellow Gold gave birth to this thrift store kind of rock culture, you know?
Yeah.
I think that it was the kind of like the underdog 90s quintessential song, you know?
Yeah.
Even without being an underdog really at all, because they still play that even on rock stations.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Yeah, I think so. But I Under the Bridge, 100%. Cannonball by the Breeders, 100. I would even have to throw in like Basket Case by Green Day.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many of them. Hey, speaking of the West Coast punk scene, did you know that Let's Go by Rancid turned 30, man?
Huh.
Yeah. That's I just saw that this morning and I was like, holy crap, because that's my introduction to Rancid before and Out Come the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I still love that record. I think it holds up just as good as and Out Come the Wolves today.
That makes Tim Armstrong only like 80, right?
Something like that. Just kidding. It also makes Tim Armstrong my gym teacher in high school. And I'm not kidding. My gym teacher in high school, one of the gym teachers was Mr. Armstrong, and his first name was Tim Armstrong. Oh. And I ended up, okay, so this is actually the craziest thing. I ended up, because it was swimming class that he was the teacher in. And I ended up forgetting my trunks one day. So I had to sit on the bench and I was talking to him and he was literally the nicest guy. Like he didn't care that I didn't have my swimming trunks. He just started talking to me and he noticed that I had a bunch of bands written on my bags. And then he's like, oh yeah, Dead Kennedys. That's really cool. And then I shit you not, he says, I really like that song of theirs called I Kill Children. I thought that was great. He's like, I thought that was really cool, you know? And then he proceeds to tell me that he went to Lollapalooza 95.
Wow.
And he starts telling me, yeah, I saw Sonic Youth, I saw Hole, I saw Beck, saw Pavement, saw Sinead O'Connor, you know, Jesus Lizard, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. I'm like, whoa, you're like honestly the coolest teacher that I know now.
Wow.
And so I kid you not, about once a month I would purposely forget my trunks just so I can sit on the bench and talk to him while everybody else suckers were playing their water games.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to Coach Tim.
Coach Tim. I see him running around like I mean, he's really in shape because I see him like, working out all the time, like riding his bike and running and jogging and stuff. Like,
Dang, he's doing better than me.
He's doing way better than me, dude. Like, he's probably going to live 100 more years longer than me. Yeah, at least.
Moses.
Yeah. He's going to be in the Bible, that Tim Armstrong.
The new Bible. The new
Bible.
Testament.
Yeah. And it's going to be spelled with a U instead of an EW. The new Bible.
Oh.
So, so Jonathan Davis is going to be the creator of all of it.
Oh, shit. St. John.
St. John. And the question will be, what was the medical problem John was suffering from when he found his creation, the new Bible? He was going blind.
Oh, my. Wow. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Oh, man. The new Bible.
New Bible.
If anyone's interested in talking more about this parody of the Bible that is based on nu metal, let us know and we'll go into it.
That or please don't do it. One of the two.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a bunch of records.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody. It's record time. Okay. So, my pick today is from a band called Chemtrails. And the name of this record is The Joy of Sex. Chemtrails are from Manchester, UK. It consists of Mia Lust on vocals, guitars, and keys, Laura Orlua on vocals, guitars, and keys, Ian Kane on bass, and Liam Steers on drums. And the best way that I can describe this record is it's an adventure for me, man. I just think that it is so fun to listen to. It's a mixture of a lot of different things: punk, rock and roll, indie, a little bit of new wave and surf music is in there. And there's even some elements of krautrock and some maybe experimental electronic music in there. However, it's very catchy and, like I said, just very, very fun. It's, for the most part, pretty upbeat. It does get kind of dark lyrically. There does seem to be some content in there about the end of the world. For me, it kind of came off as like, I don't know, like apocalyptic party music. I know that sounds kind of a little ridiculous, but that's kind of the aesthetic that I was getting, or maybe what they were going for. Perhaps I'm completely wrong about that, but that's what it feels like to me. And there's also like, I don't know, there's like one specific song that's about joining like a death cult. So I don't know, maybe there's like an inside joke, or something, but that's sort of what it came off to me as. And I really like that. I've mentioned this before, I always like it when bands, and I think They Might Be Giants are kind of masters at this, are able to make their music sound really welcoming, but then the lyrics are extremely dark and maybe even a little cringe and subversive. I also think that Iowa City's own Samuel Locke Ward is really good at that as well. The guitars and synths, I think, meld together like perfectly in sort of this hypnotic style throughout the record. I think the vocals are really interesting. Best way that I can describe them is kind of a quirkiness, a little bit of a sneer to them. The song structures themselves too are kind of, again, this kind of goes back to the hypnotic quality that I mentioned. It's actually pretty repetitive, but I feel like there's a lot of buildups and kind of sounds overlapping. So it doesn't make the repetitiveness hard to listen to, or it just keeps kind of building up. And I don't think they sound like this, but I always thought that a record by comparison in terms of that is like Tool's Anima. kind of was sort of like that for me a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's in my mind, that's sort of what I was hearing like with this record. But overall, I just think that it's kind of just an interesting, I guess, new wave rock record with a lot of different elements thrown in. As far as the stuff it reminded me of, B-52s right off the bat, I think there definitely were some elements of like the Pixies and the Breeders, a little bit of Man or Astro Man, Gary Newman a little bit, and the surf parts, really the only surf besides Man or Astro Man and maybe a couple of other like shadowy men on a shadow planet. The most obvious like surf rock artist that I can name, of course, is Dick Dale. And some of the guitar parts definitely reminded me of that. There were some really nice reverb tones going on with the guitars and the single notes overlapping with the instrumentation. But overall, yeah, this record I just think is a blast to listen to and a very welcome sound for 2024. I've never heard of this band before. I think I just randomly found them on some, I don't know, best of 2024 lists so far. And the description made me want to check it out. And yeah, I thought it was really good. What did you think, Erik?
I loved it. I really did. I thought it was super fun and quirky and strange and psych, poppy, upbeat. Yeah, it had elements of like what I actually call glam, so not hair metal. I think those things get mixed up sometimes. But yeah, like glam, like sweet or that kind of stuff. Very surfy, like you said, noisy. A lot of elements of bubble gum or even like 60s like girl group kind of sounds coming through. As far as the playing goes, I feel like everything in it is there to support the song and making it as interesting and fun as possible. Things stick out or come through or whatever, but I really do feel like everyone's kind of serving the song on this. I really like the fuzzy bass that goes through a lot of it. The guitars are very slinky, surfy, a lot of delays, reverbs. That almost gets into some of the psych stuff too. The drums are heavy, but like really tight, like tight to the point that they almost seem gated a little bit. I don't think they actually are, but that's the level of tightness. The synth and organ parts are awesome. They had a lot of movement to everything, especially when they arpeggiate or sequence in modes or whatever. The vocals are really cool. I think they move between sort of like cutesy kind of sounds to like really distorted, sort of chaotic sounds. The background vocals support all of that. I was really, I don't want to say surprised by this, but I really was taken aback by it. I listened to it a few times, and honestly, I'm going to listen to it a bunch. It's really fun music, and a lot of times I'm almost I don't know, I hate the term turned off. It's kind of gross, but I am not that into fun music very much because it generally crosses over into some sort of like silliness that I can't really connect with or find any sort of like gravity to or whatever. But then some things come through that are still really fun, but also have an edge to them. You know, even if it's talking about scary ideas, but in a fun way, like this one does. I think that the cults thing comes up a lot. Like even the title of the record, The Joy of Sex, is SECTS, like, you know, like religious sex. And, you know, I love all that. And this is a great album. I don't know what else to say about it. As far as recommended if you like, first thing I had was B-52s. The B-52s, I think, are really underrated because a lot of people know like Love Shack or whatever, and whatever. Love Shack, it never really needs to be played again. We can all recall the entire song in our brains any moment that we want because it's part of our DNA. We've heard it so much. But there's a lot of cool stuff, especially in the first record, like Rock Lobster era stuff that's like really interesting and pretty wild, and it's really new wavy and surfy. Anyway, that's just a little side note there. Other things, Blondie, ESG for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of T-Rex in here. Adam and the Ants, Daisy Chainsaw for sure, and that Retros group that we covered a while back. I can hear a lot of that in there too. So I don't know, just super fun, surfy, noisy, weird. Yeah, I just loved it. Good pick. So to be a foil to all that fun, as usual, my pick, it's called She Spread Sorrow. And the album is called Orchid Seeds, came out in 2023. She Spread Sorrow is a solo project from Alice Kundalini from Biella, Italy. I thought this was super cool. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how I came across it, but it's beyond minimal. Like, there's hardly anything happening at any given moment. It provides this sort of really skeletal kind of vapor dreamscape kind of thing. The songs are so sparse that there really is barely anything to hold on to. There's like implications of a beat or a rhythm or structure at all. But I like it because it kind of lets your mind fill in the blanks. Like, you'll find yourself listening to it and nodding your head to a beat that doesn't exist. Like, I don't know, somehow it's still very engaging and super interesting, even though a lot of times there's barely anything happening. Another element of it too is like with music like this, a lot of times it's kind of creepy or depressing or dark or whatever. And it very much seems like that is the effect of this album. But for me, it came off more like meditative or calming, pretty druggy, if I got to be honest. Like, it's beyond mellow. Like, there's not much happening. There's a lot of synthesizer sounds, and they do happen within a structure of sorts, but she's not really concerned with letting you in on what's happening all the time. But yeah, really cool synth parts. The drum parts that are there are very cool. Her voice is delivered more like talking than anything else. It kind of reminds me of Nico's singing a little bit at times. But yeah, the songs give you a lot of time to sort of live within them. Most of them average about 7 minutes, probably. And yeah, they kind of stay where they are and they let you settle in and just become part of it. The songs, this is weird, but honestly, they remind me of Con8, even though they don't share any similar sounds. Like, sonically, they could not be more different, honestly. But the way they're constructed and delivered and the way the vocals are delivered, it very much reminds me of that just extreme sparseness of Con8. But yeah, the things that, recommended if you like, this is kind of a long list, but I felt like it needed to be to even sort of come close to explaining what's happening. So I'll just go through it. Glass Candy, or honestly, any of the Johnny Jewel stuff, chromatics, that kind of stuff. There's an element of that here. Young Marble Giants, again, with that sort of sparseness. Throbbing Gristle, in the way that Genesis used to just sort of talk over, noiescapes or whatever. That element's here. Suicide, sort of for the same reasons. Broadcast, for the synths and the vocals. And then a local favorite of mine, Nani Perry. I got the same similar vibes from that. And yeah, I don't have much else to say other than if you want something cool and calm and something you can just sort of drop into and spend some time there and not have everything handed to you. Like you have to work a little bit to listen to this record. But I found it really calming. I don't want to say uplifting, but it definitely didn't bring me down. So I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I really thought it was cool. It took me a couple listens to fully get it for sure. Like the first time I listened to it, I didn't quite know what to make of it. But then when it got to the second and third time that I listened through it, it really started to kind of make sense to me what this record is. And it still is a pretty challenging listen. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, at least for me. But the thing that I find about this is it's really, really just fascinating and mesmerizing. And, there's an isolation in it that I really appreciate, which I think kind of to your point, Erik, about the meditative aspects of it. 100%. I agree with that because when I listen to it on my headphones, which I think is highly recommended personally, and I found myself just kind of drifting off into a meditative state just listening to it. Honestly, it's a lot of really cool soundscapes and, as you said, Erik, talking vocals. So this is going to sound really silly in comparison to your description, I think, Erik, but it presents itself almost as like a poetry reading in space on hallucinogens. Like that's how I sort of envision it. Yeah, there's synthesizers and drums, digital drums, I assume. And kind of the way that she does the vocals is also very interesting to me because it almost sounds like there's like a at least in some parts, almost like a fading delay or something, or a robotic effect that really make the vocals sound just otherworldly, which I think really just adds to the effectiveness of this record. And I can't tell if she is using effects or if it's kind of like her, I don't know, normal voice. There are some sections where she's definitely using an effect, but there's a bunch of random noises that kind of pop up like out of nowhere. And I wonder if that could be actually the effect that you get from listening to it with headphones. I have no idea. And it doesn't happen often, but it'll just kind of happen like out of the blue. Like just you'll be listening to this part and all of a sudden there's like this sort of sort of thing in the background and you're just kind of like, what the heck is that? And I honestly have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's like an instrument or if it's something on like a computer that is like during production or whatever. But yeah, it's very mesmerizing. I think that it definitely sounds pretty claustrophobic and just kind of cold a little bit, but in a very soothing way. And it's also, I would even say, pretty cinematic as well, but definitely minimalist. There, like Erik said, there really isn't a lot going on in terms of, it's not a bunch of like wild song structure changes or anything like that. It's really presented as like each track, I feel, is presented as like a one piece that just sort of, it doesn't even really have any buildups or anything. You just kind of listen to it and kind of just, I guess, like float by them. For lack of a better way to describe it. It's really cool though. The best way I like, if I had to pick like a genre, I don't know, like poetic industrial or something. Now, a lot of the things that it reminded me of were a little bit different than Erik's, but I also think that I would agree with pretty much everything that Erik said as well. So like for me, it reminded me a lot of the Nine Inch Nails Ghost albums. It reminded me of the Beyond the Black Rainbow movie score, and also just John Carpenter and 80s horror sci-fi scores in general. But John Carpenter, definitely. And then also, this is where I think Erik, I think you would kind of see where I'm coming from with this. A little bit different picks here, but like Add Into X, Trans Am, when Trans Am gets really sort of ambient and sort of, I don't know, weird with some of their instrumental stuff. Ladytron in particular, like the vocals sometimes, because Ladytron also does some spoken word type things. Also that band Kill Alters that we reviewed a while back. But now this might be the most out of the box one here, but I'm also going to say Sonic Youth. And the main reason is because her spoken word vocals really reminded me of when Kim Gordon does talking vocals. Like there was some parts in this that really I feel when Kim Gordon would kind of do like talking vocals and Sonic Youth would kind of get a little more ambient with their sound or whatever you want to call it. And then Kim Gordon would kind of do her spoken word parts, like if they had some sort of part that was slowing down randomly in a song or something. Alice's talking vocals reminded me a lot of Kim Gordon. And so I don't know, I kind of see like parts of this, you know, when Sonic Youth did more of their experimental sound, I could see like this almost being like Sonic Youth as like an electronic band or something, you know, even though it's not a band, it's just one person. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, Sonic Youth, this reminded me of that a little bit. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. Yeah, it totally put me in mind of like I was seeing visuals of like really cool like sci-fi cinematic scenes from some of my favorite movies from back then, you know? And so yeah, I thought this was really cool, really cool. All right, so our local pick is a split from two metal bands from Cedar Rapids, Ill Omen, who we've had on the show before, and we also reviewed one of their albums before, and then Frontal Assault. And the name of this split is called 10 Beer Plan. So Ill Omen are from Cedar Rapids, Curtis Graham on guitars and background vocals, Luke Huge on bass guitar and lead vocals, Caleb Monternock on drums and percussion vocals. Frontal Assault are also from Cedar Rapids and has Anthony Thomas on guitars and vocals, Kyle Template on drums, and William Hall on bass and vocals. And this split is so sick. Both bands, in my opinion, are two of the most impressive metal bands, not even from Iowa, just period right now. And they're both three pieces, which I think is absolutely amazing. So the Ill Omen side is, I feel it's pretty much expanding on the recordings that they've done in the past, but I actually feel like it's presenting an even grittier and even more raw sound than what I remember of the album we reviewed of theirs, March of Decay. I feel like the guitars are even more noodly a little bit, not in a bad way, but just in a real technical way. Like I feel in almost every way this band has improved, which it honestly, Ill Omen did not really need to improve at all from March of Decay, but I just feel like the riffs are more thrashy. The voice is even more guttural. The performance is tighter, even super precise riffs for days. The guitar tone is just fierce and just pierces right through you. The bass, it cuts through beautifully. I mean, this is like modern thrash metal as good as it comes. I would definitely say, as always, they're displaying a little bit of a crossover influence as well. And yeah, man, as far as I can tell, Ill Omen are just getting better and better as they keep going. And yeah, I'm just super stoked that somebody is playing this quality of metal. And there's a lot of great quality metal bands in Iowa, but it's just awesome that the younger generation is really picking up on this stuff because it's absolutely incredible. Now, the Frontal Assault side, I was extremely curious about because I had never heard Frontal Assault before this. And I think that on the Frontal Assault side, what you have is an even more crossover sound. Definitely on the crustier, punkier side of things, more so than Ill Omen. And I think the vocals are a little bit more high. I definitely do feel like the punk influence is a little more pronounced on the Frontal Assault side, or at least the crossover side. Once again, the riffs are absolutely insane. The guitars are just menacing. Songs are really fast. I mean, I honestly don't know how, and this is true for most metal bands that play in this genre. I just have no idea how drummers do it in the metal genre. It's just absolutely incredible. And yeah, it's gritty as hell. The performance is tight as hell. I do feel like Anthony's voice in comparison to Luke's voice with Ill Omen is a little bit more on the black metal side, I guess. As I mentioned before, it felt like his vocals are a little more high pitched. Yeah, it's just stellar drums, bass, guitar. I can't say much more about it. Both of these bands are just doing metal like damn near perfect as far as I'm concerned. So I think both bands are similar enough in style that I can apply the stuff that it reminds me of, or the recommended if you like. I can apply that to pretty much both bands. So, I mean, the stuff that it reminds me of is Bathory, Dark Throne, Anthrax. I believe I mentioned pretty much all these bands with Ill Omen, but early Metallica, Voivod, Death, even a little bit of like Merciful Fate and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and some of the leads, Slayer. And then in particular, I will say Frontal Assault reminded me of a now long defunct Iowa City band called Breakdance. Yeah, this is just a really sick, awesome, incredible metal split. What did you think, Erik?
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know. It's amazing. It's funny because I'm only mentioning this because I know people are going to run into the same issue. We were actually going to cover this split on the last local roundup episode that we did, but I inadvertently only listened to half of the split. And the reason is on both Bandcamp and Spotify, the split is listed under each individual band, but then it's just their songs from the split under their name. So if you go to Frontal Assault, click on 10 Beer Plan, you're only going to see the Frontal Assault songs, and same thing with Ill Omen. So with that being said, unless it's on physical media or something, like you're going to have to go two places to listen to this, to Frontal Assault's page and Ill Omen's page. So just throwing that out there. Don't miss out on half the split because you went to one band's page or the other. So, and also I want to mention that both of these bands are going to be playing the Metal Underground Fest in Cedar Rapids that we're a proud sponsor of. Yeah, so let me get into my review. I'll start with Frontal Assault. Yeah, everything Dan said. It's an awesome combo of like old school thrash, and I really do mean old school thrash. A little bit of black metal, death metal. There's quite a hint of new wave of British heavy metal as far as I'm concerned with Frontal Assault. Just super crisp. Like the production is just pristine. It's really cool. Super heavy, obviously. The drums are so fast and perfect. The guitars have, like I said, a very shiny, glistening tone to them, which I love. Another group that reminds me of is Glass Ox out of Des Moines. Like they have a similar guitar tone, and I just love it. It's very new wave of British heavy metal, in my opinion. Bass is super solid and present, and not only just holding down the rhythm, but adding a lot of melodic fills and a lot of movement through the songs. Really cool bass playing, especially for this style of music, when a lot of times the bass is unheard, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's the vocals are great. They go between that kind of black metal screech for the most part, but it goes into the guttural death stuff and everything in between. Things that this reminded me of, or recommended if you like, Morbid Angel, Merciful Fate, Suicidal Tendencies with some of the more thrash elements, Dark Funeral, and I have to say Judas Priest as well. Like I really do think there's a little bit more new wave of British heavy metal coming through this than I expected. So that's super cool. The Omen side of things, this is brutal stuff. Again, I would say it's blackened, kind of Black Death stuff, but I would consider this maybe a little more like crossover thrash than old school thrash. And I know I'm splitting hairs, and someone out there is like, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about, and that's fine. I probably don't, but it felt a little more crossover to me. Really great performances. Everything sounds great on both sides of the split. The production's really cool. Super heavy, full, really cool bass tones. Like the tone of the bass is interesting, especially on the Obama Nightmare and Power of the Sun. Like the bass tone is really cool. The guitars are really cool, very thrash oriented, almost Kerry King level of whammy abuse going on here. It gets kind of proggy at moments, I feel like, especially the break and 10 beer plan. The vocals are pretty different. I think they spend a lot of time in this sort of distorted, kind of tortured, guttural shout. Power of the Sun is really cool. It's very sweeping and like really epic. And I assume that it's about the atomic bomb because they quote the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning of the song, which was famously quoted by Oppenheimer when they tested the atomic bomb. So I would assume maybe that's what the song's about. But there's a really cool drum break in it that's really reminiscent of the song Indians by Anthrax. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but things that it reminded me of: Possessed, Sacred Reich, Celtic Frost or Celtic Frost. And vocally, it reminded me a lot of The Accused, which is a band that doesn't get much credit for anything because they were so far out that no one really wants to claim them. But especially vocally, that's reminded me of the Accused. Overall, really cool split. And just, I'm so excited for this stuff happening. And I'm excited to see it continuing and growing. And the scene is amazing. Like it really is becoming just a really impressive scene that these guys are a part of and that they're all working on together. So great stuff.
there's a lot of things happening, man, that I'm, as somebody who's 43, I'm like kind of like proud of this big metal scene that's happening. And then also just like, I love everything that I've been seeing from like the Pokies record scene,
Yeah.
and like Iowa City. And yeah, there's just a lot of really cool stuff happening right now, like in our general area, that it makes me excited for the youth that are involved in it,
Right. For sure. Yeah.
And it's one of those things too, where I'm like, I go back and forth between like, man, I'm glad that in some ways that I grew up in the time that I did, but at the same time, like I would kill to have the unity that these scenes seem to have,
Yeah.
Like,
it's definitely a moment. I think when you get older, you start to realize that if you're in a moment, then take the time to realize you're in a moment. Like,
yeah,
this is, you could compare it to any kind of thing, like back when Loa was playing and Sean Reed and all the noise stuff here, or
right.
Or even like the White Lightning Warehouse era, that was a moment. And this is just Iowa City stuff because that's what I know. But if in the moment you can take a step back and say, wow, this is really something right now. And I'm glad to be a part of it. Like, you should do that. I mean, don't rest on your laurels, keep working, keep hustling, keep making it a better scene, but also don't lose sight of the fact that it's pretty amazing right now. So it's cool stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do also want to say, for some reason, I skipped over them, but I actually had it written down. Not that this is a big deal, but I also had Suicidal Tendencies written down as well.
Nice.
And I just now realized that because I write down in a notebook still because I'm ancient.
I just want attention.
And I noticed that it continued on to the other page, and the top of the other page says Suicidal Tendencies.
Nice. Yeah.
100% though, if you're any kind of metal fan at all, you need to check these kids out, man.
Yeah.
Ill Omen and Frontal Assault.
Amazing stuff.
Amazing stuff. And also like Phantom Threat and all of the other metal bands that are who are their peers. I mean, it's fantastic stuff.
Endless.
It really is. It really is. So yeah, today was a good day, as the famous Ice Cube once said.
Didn't even have to use my AK.
Didn't have to use my AK, and
pretty early today still.
Although I didn't get my grub on this morning.
Yeah, with no hog.
Yeah, with no hog. Does Ice Cube not eat pork?
I don't know. He's stoked about the fact that his mom made breakfast with no pig meat.
Yeah.
And that's worth mentioning in a song.
Yeah, but I thought I saw bacon in the skillet in the video.
Oh, well, shoot.
Maybe it's turkey bacon.
That's the lyric, actually. Yeah.
It's turkey bacon.
Yeah.
And mama cooked the breakfast with turkey bacon.
Took the time to say that.
Do you have any extreme views on turkey bacon at all?
Extreme?
Yeah, I mean,
no, I don't think so.
For some people, turkey bacon, they act like it's this radical thing. Like my dad actually gets into arguments with me sometimes about it. Like he's like, "That's not bacon," and I said, "Well, yeah, it's turkey bacon." "No, it's turkey strips."
Well, I mean,
but that's kind of what bacon is, right?
Right.
I mean, it's pork strips, right? I mean,
I've had turkey jerky. It's still jerky, right?
Yeah, it's still, yeah, exactly. So my question is, do you think that turkey bacon is better, worse, or just kind of about the same?
I think it's one of those things where you have to offset the benefits, to the flavor or whatever. Like, I do think it's much better for you than pork bacon.
And it is.
And I think with that in mind, it tastes good enough.
Here's the thing. I love it. I think turkey bacon is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really, really like it. I actually think I can get it to taste just as good as regular bacon. Yeah.
BLT season.
Oh my gosh, it
Yeah.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wait, when is it not?
I don't know. I just always associate BLTs with summertime. But
Really?
it could be anytime. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never
Yeah.
heard that it was a summer food. I mean hamburgers, hot dogs, ice cream, fruit cake, all summer foods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, maybe not the fruit cake.
Yeah.
It may be the fruit cake.
I love fruitcake. It's the best.
You know, I do too. I don't understand the hate that it gets.
I don't know. I think people that hate fruitcake have never tried it. I think that's what it comes down to.
I got to agree because there's also different types of fruit cake as well. I mean, and that's the thing is like, if you're going to get just one of those like sort of shitty logs that you get, you know, for like, and you're going to say that is the world of fruit cake in one bite, then I could see how somebody doesn't think that it's that great. But man, a real fucking fruit cake, like with the nuts and the cherries and with
real fucking fruit cake.
A real fucking fruit cake, man. Like yeah, they're coming. This fruit cake is coming from a real place.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. All the things people think are gross kind of usually aren't.
Except for Braunschweiger.
See, I get into that.
You like Braunschweiger?
Yeah. Actually, my last meal, if I were to be on death row, I mean, when I'm on death row, my last meal will be Braunschweiger with cheddar cheese, mayonnaise, and Beaujay's mustard on white bread. That's the best sandwich, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
I never knew these things about you, Erik.
Full of meat surprises.
Yeah. I think the best sandwich in the world is probably the good old fashioned Reuben.
Yeah. Good old Reuben or a Cuban or a Carubin.
Yeah, Carubin.
Carubin, Jamaica. Ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda. Nothing.
Mama, come on, Freddy, Mama.
Yeah.
That is where. Okay, yeah.
Okay, we talked about sandwiches. We sang Kokomo. That's about it. If you want to hear more about sandwiches, keep listening.
And when Ice Cube rapped about his breakfast, well, that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap. Hey, so yeah, if you want to get a hold of us, at accelerativ.thrust@gmail.com, right? And then
send us your recipes for post-Thanksgiving sandwiches.
Send us your favorite sandwich and tell your friends. I mean, I know that your friends probably don't care that much about sandwiches, but if they do, tell them to listen to this podcast.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it'd be
all
awesome
your friends
to have some listeners. I mean, you count. You're great. We love you. But
yeah, keep coming back.
Yeah, we'd like to have some more because, you know, it's nice. It's nice to feel connected to people.
It really is. And you guys, I know you're out there, the ones that listen to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What do you think? Let's call it.
Yeah, man. Let's say the byes and let's be done.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh man. I am not that into fun music.